Right, okay, and so in today's video we're going to have a look at some of these slightly harder ratios as fractions questions, or sometimes referred to as ratios of ratios, where we've got these two elements of ratios being put together and asking us to find out a sort of total fraction. We're going to build up some quite difficult questions here that tend to be answered quite badly by students on the whole. So there's quite a lot to have a little look at here, and we're going to kickstart with a few simpler questions, but grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, and hopefully we're going to have a look at some nice methods to approach these types of questions. So this question on the screen here, it says only blue vans and white vans are made in a factory. It says the ratio of the number of blue vans to the number of white vans is 4:3. And it says for the blue vans, the number of small vans to the number of large vans is 3:5. Work out the fraction of the number of vans made in the factory that are blue and large. Okay, so we're looking at these ones that are blue and large. Now, as this sort of question develops and this sort of gets a little bit harder, there's a specific approach that I'm going to take when I'm actually looking at these. And that is I'm going to kind of structure this in the same way that you would structure a probability tree, and looking at this as more along the lines of work out the probability of picking a van that's blue and large out of all of these sort of vans in the factory. And the sort of way that I'm going to draw this then is I'm going to draw a bit of a probability tree. So I'm going to start by saying blue to white. Okay, so we've got the vans, they're blue or they're white. Now over here we've got the ratio of blue and white, we've got 4:3. Now that's out of 7 in total. So 4 out of the 7 there are blue and 3 out of the 7 there are white. So for the blue here we've got 4 out of 7. And for the white here, we've got 3 out of 7. There we go. And then it gives us the next piece of information. Now, it only mentions anything to do with the blue vans here. And as these sort of questions develop, we're going to have a look at ones where it mentions something about both branches here. But in this particular question, look, it just says for the blue vans, we've got small and large. So I'm only going to do another branch coming off the blue vans here. And that's going to be our small ones and our large ones. And again, we've got a ratio here, it's 3:5, so it's out of 8 in total. So for the small vans there, that's the 3, and that's 3 out of 8. And for the large vans there, it's 5, and again, that's 5 out of 8. Now, when it comes to actually working out the fraction here that are blue and large, we treat it in the same way that we do a probability tree. We have a look, okay, we go up the blue branch, and we get 4 out of 7 for the blue. And then we go up the large route or down the large route, depending on how you've drawn it here, and that's 5 out of 8. Okay, and just double check that you've put those in the right place. That's large, 5 out of 8, that's right, so that's blue and large. So all we do normally when we're going along a tree like this is we just multiply those fractions together, and we're not going to do anything different in this question. So all we're going to do is we're going to take that first fraction there for blue, which is 4/7, and I'm going to multiply it by the large fraction there, which is 5/8. There we go. And multiplying fractions is nice and easy. We just times the top and times the bottom. So 4 times 5 is 20. And 7 times 8 on the bottom is 56. There we go, and that's our final answer. 20 out of 56 is our fraction of the vans in the factory here that are blue and large. Okay, so hopefully that makes it quite nice and simple to understand, but essentially we just pair together the two fractions that we're looking at and multiply them together just like we would on a probability tree. But let's have a look at another one of these questions. Right, okay, so this question says, on a school trip, the number of teachers to the number of students is 1:15. And then it says the ratio of the number of male students to the number of female students is 7:5. And this says work out what percentage of all the people on the trip are female students, giving your answer correct to the nearest whole number. Now, essentially, forget the fact at the moment that it says percentage. Let's just work out the fraction. Once we have a fraction, we can turn that into a percentage nice and easily. So although it says percentage here, I'm just going to do exactly the same process as before. We've got our option, which is teachers, and we have students, which I'll label T or S. So again, the ratios up here, it's out of 16. So for teachers there, it is 1 out of the 16. 15 plus 1 is 16. And for the students, it is 15 out of the 16. There we go. Then it starts to give us some information, look, only about the students. So it says male students to female students is 7:5. So I'm just going to do my branch coming off the students here. There we go, and we'll label these male and female. There we are, and our fraction there, let's have a look. The ratio is 7 and 5, so it's out of 12 in total. So male there, we've got 7 out of 12, and female there, we have the 5 out of 12. There we go. And we just want to have a look at what branches we're going through here for this particular question. So it says in the question, the number of people on the trip that are female students. So I can go down the student branch. There we go, we go through 15 over 16 there. And then we also want to look at the females, so down the female branch, and we hit that branch there, which is 5 over 12. So again, the same process as before, we'll just multiply those two together. So we have 15 over 16, and we're going to multiply that by 5 over 12. Right, there we go. Now this is a calculator question. There's a bit of a hint in the language there. It says give your answer correct to the nearest whole number, so it's going to be a decimal here for when we get our final percentage. But if we just work these out and see what we get, we've got 5 times 15 on the top. 5 times 15 is 75. And on the bottom there we have 16 times 12, which is 192. So we're almost done. We've got that now as a fraction. If it said what fraction of people on the trip are female students, well, 75 out of 192. But it wants us to write this as a percentage. So all I'm going to do is on my calculator, I'm just going to type in 75 divided by 192. Or if you have your fraction button, you can type it in like that as well. But 75 divided by 192, if we turn that into a decimal, gives us the answer 0.390625. There we go. And we want to write that as a percentage, so times that by 100, turn it into a percentage. There we go, so times 100. And that equals 39.06, obviously the rest of the decimals as well, 39.0625, but it wants it to the nearest whole number, so to the nearest percentage basically, that is just going to be 39%. There we go, so we can round that off, and our answer is 39%. There we go, and there's our final answer. Okay, so treating it in the same way as before, but obviously once we got our final fraction there, just typing that into a calculator and turn it back into a percentage. Obviously it might be a particular question where it nicely turns into a percentage, but 75 over 192, definitely a little calculator question for us there. But there we go, that's how we work them out. Just structure it off in the style of a probability tree, and just treat it in exactly the same way, and obviously just writing those ratios as fractions as you go. So here's a couple of questions for you to have a go at before we move on to some slightly harder ones. Right, okay, so here's 2 questions, so pause the video there, have a go, and we'll go over the answers in a sec. Right, so this first one says, there are only blue pens and black pens that are sold in a shop. The ratio of blue to the number of black is 2 to 5. And then it says, for the black pens, we've got the number of gel pens to the number of fountain pens is 4 to 1. Work out what fraction of the number of pens sold in the shop are black gel pens. So we've got our option here, which is black and blue pens. So I'll put the full word in here rather than just B and B. There we go, so we've got black or we've got blue. Now black pens, let's have a look. It says the ratio of the number of blue pens to the number of black pens is 2 to 5. So the 2 is the blue there out of 7. So blue is 2 out of 7. And the black pens, there's the 5, so 5 out of 7. Then it says for the black pens, they're either gel pens or fountain pens. So we'll just label this up, G and F. And it says that's in the ratio 4 to 1, which is out of 5. So gel pens is 4 out of 5, and the fountain pens is 1 out of 5. There we go. And we need to work out the fraction, let's have a look, that are black gel pens. So we'll go up the black route, through the 5/7, and then through the gel pens, which is 4/5, and we'll multiply those two together. So we have 5/7 multiplied by 4/5. 5/7 multiplied by 4/5. And that's going to give us our final answer here. Multiplying the top together gives us 20. Let's do this in a different colour. Let's have a look. 5 times 4 is 20. And 7 times 5 is 35. There we go. And we don't need to simplify that there. That is the fraction. Again, you wouldn't be wrong to simplify it, but I can just leave that as 20 over 35, which makes it quite nice and easy to finish my answer there. Right, and on to the next one. Let's have a look. So in a company, the number of managers to the number of workers is 1 to 7, and the ratio of male workers to the number of female workers is 3 to 4. Work out what percentage of all the people in the company are male workers and give it to the nearest whole number. Okay, so we've got managers and workers. Let's label this up. There we are, and that is 1 to 7, so that's out of 8. So the managers, we've got 1 out of 8, and the workers there, we've got 7 out of 8. Then it talks about the workers, and it says we've got male and female. There we go, so male and female, and that's the ratio 3 to 4, so that's out of 7. So the males is 3 out of 7, and the females there is 4 out of 7. And again, we just need to find the root we're looking for. So in this question, it says what percentage of all the company are male workers? Right, okay, so looking at this then, we are going down the workers route, and that gives us our 7/8, and then we are going up the male route, there we go, which is 3/7. So again, we just need to times them together. That's going to give us the male workers, so we've got 7/8, and we're going to multiply that by the 3/7, and again, that's going to give us our final answer as a fraction. 7 times 3 is 21, and 8 times 7 is 56. So straight away we're going to turn this into a percentage. So 21 divided by 56 on the calculator gives us 3/8. There we go, so that's 3/8, which actually comes out as 0.375. And if we times that by 100, we get 37.5%. And obviously it wants it to the nearest whole number, so chop that after the 7 and it rounds to 38%. There we are, and there's our final answer, 38%. There we go, so we've got 20/35 for the first one and 38% finishing it off for the second one there. Right, okay, so that's how we're going to approach these questions. Now we're going to have a look at something slightly trickier, where we've got some information about both sets of branches after the first one. Okay, so let's have a look at one of those now. Right, okay, so we've got a lot of words and a lot of information on this question, so I'm going to have a go at doing this one with you. Then I've got one for you to have a go at, and then one final question to finish on. So it says white shapes and black shapes are used in a game. Some of the shapes are circles and all of the other shapes are squares. Then it says the ratio of the number of white to black is 3:7, white circles to white squares is 4:5, and black circles to black squares is 2:5. Work out what fraction of all the shapes are circles. So let's have a look at constructing this tree then. So we have white and black to start with. We've got white shapes and we've got black shapes, and we've got the fraction over here. Let's have a look. So we've got 3:7, that's out of 10, so white is 3 out of 10 and black is 7 out of 10. Then we've got our next piece of information. So now it tells us about the white circles to white squares. So we're looking at this white route here. So we've got white circles, white squares. So I'll just label this C and S. And the ratio there is 4:5. So that's out of 9. We've got the circles first. So that's 4 out of 9 for the circles and 5 out of 9 for the squares. But then we've also got this next piece of information that tells us about the black circles to the black squares. So that's 2:5. So we'll put that part on as well. So down the black shapes, again we've got circles and squares, and we've got 2 out of 7 for circles. We've got 2 and 5, that adds up to 7 there, and 5 out of 7 for the squares. Now again, you don't actually need all the bits of information here, but it's just quite nice visually just to get it all set out and then pick the ones that you want obviously from your tree. So going along then, we're looking at what fraction of all the shapes are circles. Okay, so we're looking at the circles. So there are two options. We can have white circles and we can have black circles. So for the white circles, we'll look at first, we go up the white route, which is 3/10, and the circles, which is 4/9. And if we multiply those together, let's have a look and see what we get. 3/10 times 4/9, and that gives us 12/90. So there we go, that's what fraction of the shapes are white circles. But then we can also have a look at the black circles. So let's go down the black route, and we get 7/10, and the circles there, we get 2/7. So let's multiply those together. So 7/10 multiplied by 2/7, and that equals 14/70. So obviously we need to get a combination of these two. We've got 12/90ths that are white circles and 14/70ths that are black circles. So to get the total fraction there, we're going to need to add these two together. Now that's not very nice to add those two together because they don't have the same denominator. And obviously without a calculator here, which is how we're going to approach this question, making a common denominator out of those is not going to be nice. Okay, the 70 times 90 would be an absolutely horrendous one. It'd be 6,300, and we want to try and avoid that at all costs. So let's have a look and see if we can simplify these fractions first. Now 12/90 I can see simplifies. So if we simplify 12/90, we could divide the top and bottom by 3. Okay, well, they both divide by 3 there. And what would we get there? In fact, I think it's a higher number. I think they both divide by 6 actually. We can simplify it in 2 steps, but let's just divide them by 6 because 12 divided by 6 is 2. There we go. And 90 divided by 6 is 15. Okay, but you can take that in slower steps, but getting that down to its simplest form, we get 12/15. The 14/70, top and bottom divide by 7 there. In fact, the top and bottom do divide by 14, but that's not very nice. We'll divide it by 7 to start with. So divide it by 7, you get 2/10, and then you can divide it by 2 there, and you get 1/5. And now they're simplified, they're a lot easier to add together. Okay, we've got 2/15, add the fifth to join them up. So if I write that over here, 2/15, add a fifth. Well, we can make this fraction on the right have a common denominator now. We can make it out of 15, so we can do 2/15, add, and we'll times the top and bottom here by 3. And that gives us 3/15. And then we're able to actually add these two together. So if we add those two together now, we get 5/15 as our final answer. Okay, that does actually simplify. They're both top and bottom both divide by 5, and it comes out as 1/3. There we go, so there's our final answer, 1/3. Okay, it doesn't say to give it its simplest form, so we could leave it as 5/15, but that made it a lot easier there in order to add those two fractions together. So as you can see, very similar process to what we looked at before, but because we had the two roots, we had the two different branches to move down and the two separate fractions that we needed to add together at the end. Okay, and obviously without a calculator, we needed to find a nice way of creating a common denominator there to add them together. Okay, so here's one for you to have a go at before we have a look at our final question. So pause the video there, have a go at this question, and we'll go over the answer in a sec. Right, okay, so it says road bikes and mountain bikes are sold in a bike shop. Some of the bikes are adults' bikes, the rest are children's bikes. So the ratio of road bikes to mountain bikes is 7:3. So let's draw this out. We've got road bikes and we've got mountain bikes. So we've got 7 out of 10 for the road bikes and 3 out of 10 for the mountain bikes. There we go, the total adds up to 10 there in that ratio 7:3. Then we've got the ratio of adult road bikes to child road bikes is 5:2. So in the road bikes, let's label this up, we've got adult and child, and the ratio there is 5:2, so that's out of 7. So the adult is 5 out of 7, and the child is 2 out of 7. There we go, and then moving on to the mountain bikes, our ratio there for, let's have a look, adult to child is 2:7, so that's out of 9. So we've got adult and child. There we go, so we've got 2 out of 9 for the adult and 7 out of 9 for the child. There we go, it says work out what fraction of all the bikes are adult bikes. So obviously we've got the adult mountain bikes and the adult road bikes, so we'll work them out separately and let's see what we get. So the road bikes, we go through 7/10, and then adult 5/7. So let's times them together. So 7/10 multiplied by 5/7. And that gives us 35/70. Now straight away, I'm just going to simplify that. 35/70 is 1/2, okay, so I'm just going to simplify that straight down to a half. Right, that's quite nice then. On the next route, let's have a look at this one. So we've got the mountain bikes, and we're looking at the adults. Okay, so we're going to go through 3/10 and 2/9, and if we write those down, 3/10 multiplied by 2/9 gives us 6/90. There we go. And again, that needs simplifying. Okay, so if we simplify that, to be fair, we could make the other one out of 90 now. I'm just going to simplify this just to obviously see if we can get the numbers a bit smaller before adding them together. So if we divide the top and bottom by 6 again, or you could divide them by 3 and then 2, however you're sort of comfortable simplifying that. But 90 divided by 6 is 15. 6 divided by 1 is 6 divided by 6 is 1, so it's 1/15. Right, there we go, so we've got two fractions to add together now. We've got the half and the 1/15. So if let's write those out, we've got 1/2, add 1/15, and we just need a common denominator. So I'm going to times the left fraction, let's just see, let's make it out of 30. So we'll times this one by 15, times this one by 2, and that gives us 15/30, and we're going to add that to 2/30. There we go, and in total there, that equals 17/30. Right, there we go, a little bit squashed there, but our final answer is 17/30. And there's our final answer for the total fraction of all the bikes that are adult bikes. Right, there we go. So that's how we go about answering one of these questions. I've got one more question for you to have a look at before we finish, and here it is. Right, okay, so our last question then to have a look at, and there's a ton of words here. It's not really any harder than the last one, it's just there's so many words and so much to process. It doesn't make this question very nice, but not any more difficult than the last one. So I would actually say just pause the video there, have a go at this question, see what you get, and we'll go over the answer to finish this off. Right, okay, so a group of people went to a restaurant and each person has one starter and one main. The number of people who choose soup to the number of people who choose prawns is 2 to 3. So looking at the table here, that is the starters, the soup or the prawns. Then it says of the people who choose soup, the number of people who choose lasagna to those who choose curry, which is our main courses, is 5 to 3. And of those who choose prawns, the other starter, the total who choose lasagna to the total who choose curry is 1 to 5. And it says what fraction of these people choose curry, and you must show how you get your answer. Now, rather than doing a full tree for this one, I'm just going to just sort of pick the right fractions out, as I've got limited space as well. Now, we know we need to get the fraction of people that choose soup to start with, and then we'll have a look at which of those chose curry, because we're looking ultimately for the total, what fraction of these people choose curry. So if we have a look, if the person chose soup to start with from this ratio up here, that would be, and let me just label this as the soup people. The soup number there is 2 out of 5. Okay, so that's the fraction of people that choose soup. And we're going to multiply that by the fraction of people that therefore chose the curry. So we're looking at this next line. Of those who choose soup, the number of people who choose lasagna to curry is 5 to 3. So the curry there is 3 out of the total, which is 8. So that's 3 out of 8. And again, you can draw this all on a tree if you want. But there we go. That's going to give us the fraction of people that choose soup. So if we times them two together, 2 times 3 is 6, and 5 times 8 is 40, so it's 6 out of 40, which again we can simplify down, top and bottom divides by 2, and that'd be 3 out of 20. There we are, and that's one of our first ones there. Let's just highlight that. We've got 3 out of 20 based on the people that chose soup to start with. Now let's have a look at the next one, which is people that chose the prawns to start with. Okay, there we go, so prawns. Now the fraction of people that chose prawns, back to our original ratio up here, is the 3 out of 5. And there we go, so we've got 3 out of 5 people that chose prawns. And then looking at that next piece of information, it says of the people who choose prawns, the ratio of lasagna to curry is 1 to 5. So 5 being the curry there, out of a total of 6, so 5 sixths. And if we times them together, 3 times 5 is 15, 6 times 5 is 30. And there we go, there's our fraction. And again, that simplifies nicely down to 1/2. There we go, so that is the fraction of people that chose prawns and curry. So finishing this question off, we've got our two fractions, we just need to add them together. So we have 3/20, and we need to add to that 1/2, and that's quite nice because now we can get a nice easy common denominator there. So we can keep it out of 20, so we'll keep the first one as 3 out of 20, and we'll add to that 10 over 20, and look in total then, add those two together, and we get 13 out of 20 as our final answer, and finishing off these questions. Right, there we go. So hopefully that's made a bit more sense of this topic and how you go about it. Obviously I didn't draw a tree for this one here, but you can absolutely feel free to draw a tree just like the rest of the questions. But there we go, hopefully you can start to see a bit of a shortcut and a way of coming away from that tree once you've practiced some of these questions. But that is our final answer and the last one of this video. So hopefully you found that useful and helpful. If you did, please like, please comment, please subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one.